And you talked about things that you now once found that okay, these are the essential things that I need to focus on. And I remember a few years back you talked about waking up every morning and writing on a clean sheet of paper just your thoughts, just letting it flow. So what are some things that you've honed in on during the pandemic, whether that's discovering things with yourself or your loved ones? Like, what are some of those things?
Well, they do sometimes tend to get a little extreme in that whenever I'm not working, it feels like I'm training towards the time when that project comes. Because when the projects come, like you have to be in pre-production, you have to plan all these things, you have to be able to like answer emails and the phone constantly, and be preparing towards this big production. And then when you're on production, a lot of times you're going into overtime and you're doing a lot of extra work and stuff. So it's very like it's exhausting on your mind and on your body. So the stuff that I kind of do is like and this is just kind of a general guideline. I don't always achieve all these things in this combination, but I'll wake up, I'll stretch, then I'll do meditation for 20 minutes, then I'll do the Wim Hof breathing method for I think like 10 to 12 minutes. And then from there, I'll usually grab a coffee and read into whatever books I'm reading. It kind of just gets my mind warmed up. It was like a warm up for the day, and it's actually through reading that I get a lot of ideas. It almost reconfigures my mind into like putting things together that have nothing to do with what I'm reading. So it's very distracting because you try and get really into something, but then there's like nagging ideas in your head. So then from there, I'll go into like journaling, or I keep another notebook that's just notes of all the things I find interesting in certain books, things I've highlighted, articles, lessons I've learned from different courses I'm taking and stuff like that. And then I have another book that's the journal, which is just like verbal diarrhea, just like anything that's in your head, you just jot it down. And it's very useful for when approaching a project and you see it as this big monster. And a lot of the times I've been called upon for certain things, I've been terrified. I'm like, I can't pull this off. Like, how am I going to do this? Like, I'm working with a new camera, with new systems, and like with a big crew, and like, how am I going to manage this? By journaling, I'm able to actually break it down into little sections. And then, so you just focus on whatever that task is that you're doing. And then that leads you to the next task and the next one. And then before you know it, you've done the entire thing without looking at it as this big, huge kind of monster. So that's been huge. That journaling, not just for projects, but just for any thoughts that come into your mind. You just sit and you write about something. If you have nothing to write about how you have nothing to write about, and then that'll give you some ideas. Like this isn't meant for someone to read back. And a lot of the times, or most of the time, I'll never read this stuff back. I don't intend to, but I hold on to it because, maybe 20 years from now, I want to see, hey, like, what was I doing, on this day?
What was your thought process?
Exactly, 20 years ago. And I'll find a lot of the time it's just like me worrying about stupid stuff and very, very mundane kind of stuff. But it's the exercise of unloading the stuff that I think is the most useful. It's not what you write, but it's just the act of writing that I think really.
And what kind of books are you reading?
I read a wide variety of stuff. A lot of psychology stuff. There's of course like I call them the cheesy 1950s help books because the language is just, I find hilarious, or 1930s even if you're talking about Dale Carnegie. So there's Dale Carnegie, there's How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is.
That's the next book I was going to pick up.
It's a great book. It's got a hilarious title. It's super 1930s, like straight to the point. But it really just teaches you leadership skills and understanding people and how to listen and how to present your ideas without being pushy. And it's really about the science of getting along with other people, which is really what you're doing all day, every day. Whenever you're in a collaborative environment, doesn't matter if you're in music, you're in film, you're in finance, you're in whatever, like it's communicating with other people and, getting to understand their viewpoints and how to bring those ideas together and how to really listen to people. So a lot of the time, and I still do this myself sometimes, where like I'm talking to someone and I'm not really listening. I'm just waiting for my turn to say something. And it's that nagging, like I'm not listening, I can't wait to say what I want to say. So it really teaches you to step back and listen to people and understand what they're saying and then build your ideas from that. So that's one of the books. Then there's The Magic of Thinking Big, I forgot the name of the author, but this is all recommended from the Tim Ferriss podcast that I started listening to back when I was traveling in South America. But it's also, again, kind of cheesy, 1940s, 50s kind of language. And it seems like something you'd pick up, and it's like, how to win your way to success and have great relationships and all this stuff, like all these promises that you'd probably look at and be like, this, you can't promise me this kind of stuff. But it's really the mindset to approaching your goals, to reviewing the work that you do, and finding the little things, how to turn failures into improvements, and like all these different things that these books are books that you can read constantly, like over and over again, and every time you read through it, you'll learn something new. But then sometimes I'll read like some, something like Brave New World, or like some sci-fi novels, and in there I'll have like some psychology stuff, like The Coddling of the American Mind, and some history, like the rise of China, or the history of North Korea, and a lot of stuff where you begin to see different patterns form from different ideas, and it's things that you can pull. It's things that you don't have to pull, that you can just kind of keep in your mind's eye, in the back of your head.